This is English shorthand dictation number 115 and the dictation speed is 160 words per minute. Ready? Start. Madam, in support of the Finance Bill 2010, first I wish to point out the new economic order of the present government in view of the provisions of the Finance Bill 2010 and the recommendations of the 13th Finance Commission report, which shows that there are two economic orders. I want to give a comparative figure of both these economic orders. First, the average cumulative burden of all indirect taxes was 22%. Now, by the reason of the new economic order which has been inducted by the Finance Bill, the average cumulative burden of all indirect taxes has come to 10%. Second, in the old economic order, the companies deal with tax laws and officials of different states, whereas in the new economic order, there is a uniform tax law and system across India. Third, by reason of the old economic order, dozens of different taxes and several products are taxed at different rates in different states. In the new economic order, there are only two tax rates. One is for the center and another is for all the states. Fourth, as a market, India was fragmented and therefore weak. In the new economic order, a strong common market with free movement of products and services is there. Eighth, India is one of the fastest growing economies, but one of the toughest places to do business. But in the new economic order, India is one of the largest global economies and is easier to do business with and in. Under the new financial order, in view of the provisions drafted in the Finance Bill, no tax needs to be paid up to Rs 1.6 lakh. This is the important part of the current IT structure. I would seriously dispute the railway service tax that has been imposed. I have raised it earlier also, and I would again request the government to withdraw the service taxes which have been imposed on the railways. The Honorable Railway Minister did not increase a single paisa either in the case of passenger fare or freight fare. Rather, she has given concession in the freight fare. A benefit of Rs 100 is being given on the carriage of essential commodities. If this service tax is imposed, it will have an indirect effect on the fare which was not at all intended by the Railway Minister. This will result in a heavy burden on the railways. In the railway budget, the Railway Minister has given her intention not to increase the fare, but if this service tax is imposed on the railways, it will lead to a tremendous liability for the railways and it has to carry on with that liability. I would request the Honorable Finance Minister to reconsider this aspect of the matter where the service tax has been imposed. Earlier also, we had said that the service tax is not required to be imposed on the individual services. It had continued last year. I would repeat that if it is not taken into consideration, the railways will have to bear a huge liability and it will have to carry on that liability without any avenue of income. Today, we see the Maoist and the Naxalite activities are going on in areas where really no development has taken place since independence. In such areas, a number of public sector undertakings are having their mining operations. These areas have steel factories and other big heavy industries. They also have the forest reserves. In such areas, Naxal activities are going on. It is because the government or the big enterprises and the big industrialists have not given back anything for the benefits extracted by them from the operations carried out in these areas. Madam, do you know who lives in these areas? The persons belonging to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes live there. If we get a population chart, we would find that 80% persons belonging to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes live in and around that area. Unfortunately, for decades together, the CSR benefits have not been extended there. Had they been extended, we would have seen some other picture in our country today. We would not have seen Maoist and Naxalite activities in those areas. Therefore, I would make a request that specific provisions should be made by amending the Finance Bill for giving benefits to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes of those areas where mining operations are going on. The other day, I said that you should bring a new law in this august house for giving rights of forest to the persons who live in forests. In the present finance bill, certain benefits have been extended, but I would say that these benefits should also be extended to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. We have got the figures for the last 4 years. The last UPA government had appointed such a committee and we have got its report. It is very clear from the report of the committee that no development has taken place in the case of minorities. I would submit that discussions should be held in this regard in future by fixing some time. At the same time, when these things have been pointed out, certain benefits should have been extended to minorities. I am not saying it simply for the sake of minority. In our Hindus also we have scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, but the persons belonging to minority communities live much below poverty line. We have to identify them and have to extend benefits to those areas. I have seen that in some areas where a large number of persons belonging to minority communities live, normally 60 to 70% people of that area live much below poverty line. I have seen this in my area of Asansol, where about 90% people live below poverty line. Therefore, these benefits have to be extended to them. Madam, another aspect to which I would like to make a reference is the idea of building a corpus, namely the National Clean Energy Fund, by way of imposing cess on coal produced in India as well as on imported coal at the rate of rupees 50 per ton, which gets appreciated. This is an obligation that the government has to discharge for keeping the environment clean. In the state of West Bengal, 25% cess is collected from coal production. What is the law on cess? The law on cess says that whenever it is collected, it has to be spent in the area itself. But unfortunately, it is not being done in our state. There are large areas under coal mining in West Bengal, and the cess collected from coal production in West Bengal has not been spent in the state. Now, the point is that it has to be seen that the purpose for which the cess is being collected is spent accordingly for that purpose. If a cess is collected for a definite purpose, then it has to be monitored to see that it is spent for that purpose only. I would like to say that it has to be seen whether the cess collected is spent for the purpose for which it has been collected or it is being spent for extraneous purposes. I have already mentioned about the education loan. I would like to request the Honorable Finance Minister about reconsidering his proposal for imposition of taxes on petroleum products. VAT is collected by all the states, including our state. In our state, the VAT collected on petroleum products is the highest. I would like to request the Honorable Finance Minister to reconsider reproduction of taxes on the petroleum products. With these words, I support the Finance Bill 2010, and I would also like to remind again that there is nothing to be worried about the expression retrospective, as it does not intend to bring anything new, and I have already mentioned about that earlier. All the states have furnished data pertaining to the production of food grains. The agricultural production is slightly lower than the projected rate. This is because of the wrong policy adopted by the government. The government has increased the cost of agricultural inputs to an unbearable level. The relief that agriculturists need to get in obtaining chemical fertilizers is not available anymore. The government has increased the prices of chemical fertilizers. The fertilizer subsidy has also come down. So, agriculturists are not able to go in for adequate quantity of chemical fertilizers for their crop. The reduction in fertilizers has resulted in reduced production. Organic farming has drawn the attention of the farming community now. But unfortunately, the government is not taking steps to encourage the agriculturists who would like to go in for natural manure for cultivation without using fertilizers and insecticides in the similar pattern of providing subsidy to chemical fertilizers. Subsidy may be extended to agricultural inputs used in organic farming. Unfortunately, the government has failed in extending support to organic farming. Even now, the government can reconsider shedding its indifference and go all out to encourage the farmers to go in for organic farming because this would ensure the availability of healthy and non-toxic food to the common people. I would like to point out that organic farming has received wide welcome from farmers all over the country. In Tamil Nadu, great support has been extended by the farmers to organic farming. In the same pattern as declaring special economic zones, the areas where organic farming is taken up in full swing should be identified and declared as special organic farming areas, and all possible help should be extended to the agriculturists in those areas.